The moving truck pulled away from my old apartment building at exactly 6 in the morning. I watched it disappear around the corner, taking the last pieces of my previous life with it. Kelly stood beside me on the sidewalk, her arms crossed against the early morning chill. "You sure about this?" she asked for the third time that week. I nodded, gripping my car keys tighter. I'd already said my goodbyes. Already packed everything that mattered. The rest was just furniture and memories I didn't want anymore. The city felt different now. Smaller. Like it was closing in on me. Every street corner held a memory I wanted to forget. Every restaurant, every park, every coffee shop reminded me of Daniel. Of my family. Of the life I'd almost had. I needed distance. Space to breathe. Room to become someone new. Someone stronger. Kelly hugged me tight before I got in my car. "Call me when you get there," she whispered. "And remember, you didn't lose everything. You lost people who didn't deserve you." The drive took 8 hours. I stopped twice for gas and once for coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. My phone stayed silent in the cup holder. Nobody called. Nobody texted. The silence should have hurt, but instead it felt like relief. Like finally being able to breathe after holding my breath underwater. I arrived in the new city just as the sun was setting. The skyline looked unfamiliar and anonymous. Perfect. Nobody here knew my name. Nobody knew about the wedding that never happened. Nobody knew about Vanessa or her lies or my ruined reputation. It could be anyone here. I could start completely over. I found a cheap motel near the highway and crashed for the night. The mattress was lumpy and the walls were thin. I could hear traffic all night and voices from the room next door. But I slept better than I had in weeks. Because for the first time since the wedding I felt safe. Hidden. Invisible in the best possible way. The apartment hunting started the next morning. I'd researched neighborhoods online before leaving, circled a few possibilities on a printed map. The first place I looked at smelled like cigarettes and had water stains on the ceiling. The second had no working stove. The third was perfect in a sad, practical way. Quiet. Affordable. 1 bedroom with a tiny kitchen and bathroom. The landlord barely asked any questions. Just wanted first month's rent and a security deposit. I paid in cash from my savings and got the keys that afternoon. Moving in took less than an hour. I didn't have much. Just 2 suitcases of clothes, my laptop, a box of important documents, and a folder containing my real college transcripts and diploma. The apartment echoed when I walked across the empty living room. I sat on the floor that first night, eating takeout Chinese food straight from the container. No furniture. No decorations. Just me and 4 bare walls and the chance to build something new. I started job hunting immediately. Dated my resume. Created new professional profiles online using just my first name and last initial. I didn't want to be too easy to find. Didn't want my past following me here. Within 2 weeks, I had 2 interviews scheduled. The first was for a marketing assistant position at a large corporation. The interviewer seemed nice but distant. Asked standard questions. Barely looked at my portfolio. I knew I wouldn't get that job. The second interview was different. A small tech startup called Vertex Solutions. 20 employees. Cramped office space above a coffee shop. The founder, a woman named Patricia, interviewed me herself. She looked at my work carefully. Asked smart questions. Seemed genuinely interested in my ideas. "Why are you willing to take a step down?" she asked, noting that my previous position had been more senior. I'd prepared for this question. "I want to learn," I said simply. "I want to grow. Sometimes you have to go backward to move forward." Patricia smiled at that. "You've been through something," she observed. It wasn't a question. Just a statement. I met her eyes. "Yes." She nodded slowly. "People who've survived storms usually make the best workers. They don't take anything for granted." I got a call 2 days later. The job was mine. Marketing coordinator. The pay was less than I'd made before. Almost 30% less. But it was a start. Foothold. A chance to prove myself in a place where nobody knew my history. I started the following Monday. The office was tiny. My desk was squeezed between the bathroom door and a filing cabinet. But I didn't care. I threw myself into the work, stayed late every night, volunteered for extra projects, learned everything I could about the company, the industry, the market. Work became my escape, my purpose, my proof that I was still capable, still valuable, still real. 3 weeks after I started, my phone buzzed with a notification. A LinkedIn message from someone I didn't recognize. When I opened it, my stomach dropped. The message was from one of Daniel's groomsmen. Someone I'd met exactly twice before the wedding. "Hey, heard you moved away. Just wanted to say I never believed those rumors. Your sister always seemed off to me. Hope you're doing okay." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, thank him, to ask what people were saying now. But I closed the app instead, deleted it from my phone. I couldn't look backward, couldn't keep checking to see if people believed me yet. That way led to madness, to obsession, to letting Vanessa win even after I'd escaped. I had to let it go, had to trust that eventually, the truth would come out on its own. My job now was just to survive, to rebuild, to become undeniable. A month after starting at Vertex, something arrived in my email. The company newsletter from my father's business. I almost deleted it immediately. Almost. But curiosity made me open it. And there she was, Vanessa, smiling in a professional headshot that must have cost hundreds of dollars. Her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. And underneath, the announcement that made my blood run cold. Pleased to announce Vanessa Thompson as our new Vice President of Operations. Vice President. The position I'd been training for since college. The role I'd worked toward for 5 years. The job I'd done unpaid internships and extra coursework to prepare for. All mine now. Given to her. Handed over like a gift. I sat at my desk staring at that photo until my vision blurred. She hadn't just ruined my wedding. She'd stolen my future. Taken the career path I'd built. Stepped into the life I was supposed to have. And she was smiling about it. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. The wedding. Her standing up. Her calculated tears. The way everyone believed her without question. And now this final theft. Around 3 a.m. I got up and made coffee. Sat at my tiny kitchen table with my laptop. Pulled up Vanessa's new professional profile online. She'd updated everything. New title. New photo. New bio that talked about her extensive experience in operations management. All of it lies. She'd worked in marketing before this. Had no operations experience. But somehow, she'd convinced my father to give her my job. Or maybe she hadn't needed to convince him. Maybe he'd offered it freely. Easier to promote the daughter who stayed. The one who didn't cause drama or run away. The golden child who never disappointed him. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark kitchen until sunrise. Thinking, planning, calculating my next move. I made a decision that morning. I wasn't going to call her. Wasn't going to confront my family. Wasn't going to demand explanations or apologies. Because I remembered how she looked at me at the altar. That calm, collected, victorious expression. Like she'd been planning this for years. Like she'd finally won. There was no point asking someone like that why. Already knew why. She wanted what I had. Simple as that. My job. My fiancé. My life. And she'd taken it all with a few well-placed lies and perfectly timed tears. So I stayed quiet. Cut contact completely with everyone in my family. Changed my phone number again. Blocked them all on every platform. Let them think I'd disappeared. Let them believe whatever Vanessa told them about where I'd gone and why. I had better things to do than defend myself to people who'd never really believed in me. I had a life to rebuild. A future to reclaim. And I was going to do it so completely, so undeniably, that her lies would eventually collapse under their own weight. The freelancing started small. A friend of Patricia's needed help with a marketing campaign. Took the job. Worked nights and weekends. Did it perfectly. Got paid. got a referral, then another, and another. Within 2 months, I had steady side work. Nothing huge. Just small projects that paid enough to start rebuilding my savings. I was exhausted constantly. Working my day job. Taking freelance clients at night. Sleeping maybe 5 hours if I was lucky. But I didn't care. The exhaustion felt good. Productive. Like I was building something real. Something nobody could take away from me. And slowly, very slowly, my reputation started to rebuild. People in my new city who knew nothing about my past. Who judged me only on my work. Who hired me because I delivered results, not because of my last name or family connections. It felt like breathing clean air after years of suffocating. Like finally being seen for who I actually was. 6 months after I left, I enrolled in an executive management course. Night classes at the community college downtown. It wasn't glamorous. The classroom was old. The chairs were uncomfortable. Half the students were there because their companies required it. But I wanted credentials. Real, verifiable credentials that nobody could question or fake. I wanted proof of my abilities that existed completely separate from my family. That couldn't be manipulated by Vanessa's lies. The course was tough. 3 nights a week. Heavy reading. Group projects. Presentations. All while working full-time and taking freelance clients. I barely had time to eat or sleep. But I showed up to every single class. Did every assignment perfectly. Participated in every discussion. My professor noticed. Started calling on me more. Asking for my input. Using my work as examples for the class. By the end of the semester I had the highest grade. And more importantly I had certification. Official documentation that proved what I was capable of. Evidence that couldn't be questioned. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at my desk at Vertex, working on a client proposal when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Is this the marketing coordinator who did the campaign for Riverside Tech? A man's voice asked. Confirmed it was. He introduced himself. Recruiter for Hammond & Associates. Consulting firm. One of my father's biggest competitors. We've been following your work, he said. We're impressed. We'd like to talk to you about a position. My heart started racing. Hammond & Associates. They were major. One of the top firms in the industry. And they were calling me. Not because of my family name. Not because of connections. Because of my actual work. I scheduled an interview for the following week. Hung up. Sat at my desk trying to process what just happened. Patricia walked by and noticed my expression. Good news, she asked. Maybe, I said. Really good news. The interview was intense. 3 hours. 4 different people. Questions about strategy. Problem solving. Client management. They showed me case studies. Asked how I'd handle specific situations. Challenged my ideas. Pushed back on my suggestions. I loved every second of it. This was what I'd been missing. Real intellectual challenge. The chance to prove what I could actually do. At the end, the director leaned back in his chair and studied me. You've been through something, he said. The same thing Patricia had noticed months ago. He nodded. Didn't elaborate. He smiled. People who've survived storms usually make the best leaders. They don't break under pressure. They've already seen the worst. 3 days later they called with an offer. Associate consultant. Double my current salary. Benefits. Real growth potential. I accepted before they finished explaining the details. Patricia was happy for me when I gave notice. I knew you wouldn't stay long, she said. You were always meant for bigger things. I started at Hammond & Associates 3 weeks later. The office was sleek, modern, glass walls and expensive furniture. My desk overlooked the city skyline. I had business cards with my name and title printed in elegant letters. Felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. Better life. The life I was supposed to have before Vanessa destroyed everything. The work was challenging, fast-paced, high stakes. I worked with major clients. multimillion-dollar accounts. My opinions mattered. My ideas were valued. Nobody cared about my family. Nobody asked about my background beyond my resume. I was judged purely on performance. And I performed brilliantly, stayed late every night, took on extra projects, volunteered for the difficult clients nobody else wanted, built relationships, delivered results, documented everything carefully, every success, every win, every client testimonial. I was building a wall of proof, evidence so solid that no rumor could ever break through it again. Within 6 months, I was promoted to senior consultant, the youngest person in the firm to reach that level. My boss called me into her office to tell me. She handed me the official letter and smiled. "You've earned this 3 times over," she said. "Your work speaks for itself." My work speaks for itself. Those words meant everything. Because that's all I'd ever wanted. To be valued for what I could actually do. Not my family name. Not my connections. Not who I knew or where I came from. Just my work. Just me. I celebrated alone that night. Bought myself a nice dinner. Sat in my apartment that now had actual furniture and decorations. Looked around at the life I'd built completely on my own. And for the first time since the wedding, I felt something other than anger or hurt or determination. Felt pride. Real genuine pride in myself. In my resilience. In my refusal to stay broken. The whispers reached me eventually. Through professional networks. Through mutual connections who didn't know we were related. Vanessa was struggling at the family company. The operations she was supposed to be managing were falling apart. Client complaints were increasing. Projects were running over budget. Deadlines were being missed. She'd taken a position she wasn't qualified for. And it was showing. I didn't gloat. Didn't feel satisfaction. Just a cold awareness that gravity was doing its work. That lies eventually collapse under their own weight. That pretending to be something you're not only works for so long. Kept my head down. Kept working. Kept building my reputation. Because I wasn't interested in watching her fail. I was interested in succeeding so completely that her lies became irrelevant. That anyone who'd believed her would look back and realize they'd been wrong. That the truth would become undeniable without me having to say a single word in my defense. One night, working late at the office, I overheard a conversation. 2 senior partners talking in the conference room. The door was slightly open. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Was just walking past with a stack of files. But I heard my father's company name. Heard them mention that the company had approached Hammond and Associates. That they were unhappy with their current operations management. That they were looking for outside consulting help. My steps slowed. I stood in the hallway, barely breathing, listening. They were talking about the exact division Vanessa was supposed to be running. The one that was falling apart. The one that needed rescuing. And they'd come to Hammond and Associates. To my firm. Looking for help. The irony was almost too perfect. I walked back to my desk. Sat down. Stared at my computer screen without seeing it. This was it. This was the opportunity I'd been working toward without even realizing it. The chance to prove myself. Not just to strangers. But to my family. To show them exactly what they'd lost when they chose Vanessa over me. I requested a meeting with my boss the next morning. Told her I'd overheard the conversation. Told her I had personal knowledge of that company. Didn't explain how. Just said I understood their operations better than most consultants would. She studied me carefully. Personal knowledge how? Took a breath. It's my father's company. Her eyebrows rose. The family that supposedly you lied to? Word had gotten around apparently. I'd never hidden my past completely. Just didn't talk about it. The family that believed lies about me. I corrected quietly. Without asking for proof. Without giving me a chance to defend myself. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Can you handle this professionally?" Without emotion. I met her eyes. I can handle it better than anyone else here. Because I know exactly what's wrong with their operations. And I know exactly how to fix it. She nodded slowly. Then put together a proposal. Show me what you've got. I worked on that proposal for 2 weeks straight. Every evening, every weekend, poured everything I knew about the company into it. Every weakness, every inefficiency, every problem I'd noticed years ago but never had the authority to fix. The proposal was perfect, detailed, professional, undeniable. I presented it to the partners on a Monday morning. They listened without interrupting, asked sharp questions, challenged my assumptions. I had answers for everything. Data, research, proof. When I finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then my boss smiled. We're giving you the account, she said. You'll be lead consultant. This is your project. My heart hammered in my chest. What about the conflict of interest? You haven't worked there in years. You have no financial stake in the company. And frankly, your inside knowledge makes you the perfect person for this. He paused. Unless you're not comfortable with it. I'm comfortable, I said. More than comfortable. I was ready. The first meeting was scheduled for 3 weeks later. At my father's office. I'd be presenting to the executive team, including, presumably, Vanessa. I had 3 weeks to prepare. To get ready to face them again. To walk back into the building where I'd worked for years. Where I trained for the position Vanessa now held. Where everyone had believed her lies without question. I bought a new suit. Expensive. Professional. Powerful. Got my hair done. Had my presentation materials printed on high-quality paper. Prepared backup copies of everything on multiple drives. I wasn't taking any chances. This presentation had to be perfect. Had to be so good that nobody could question my competence. Had to prove beyond any doubt that Vanessa had lied. That I was exactly who I'd always said I was. 3 days before the meeting, Kelly called. Kept in touch with her. Occasional messages. Updates on my progress. I heard you're going back, she said. Are you sure you're ready? I'm ready, I told her. And I was. I'd spent 18 months rebuilding myself. 18 months proving my worth. 18 months becoming someone stronger than the girl who'd run from her own wedding. I wasn't that person anymore. Wasn't weak or broken or easily destroyed. I was a senior consultant at a top firm. Had credentials nobody could question. Had a reputation built on real work, not family connections. Had proof of everything I was capable of. Vanessa couldn't touch me anymore. Couldn't hurt me with lies. Because I had truth on my side now. Real, documented, undeniable truth. The night before the meeting, I barely slept. Not from nerves. From anticipation. From the cold satisfaction of knowing I was about to walk back into that building as someone they couldn't ignore. Couldn't dismiss. Couldn't pretend didn't exist. I was going to reclaim what was mine. Not the job. Not the family. But my reputation. My truth. My proof that I'd been right all along. I arrived at the building 30 minutes early. Parked in the visitor lot. Sat in my car for a moment, looking up at the familiar glass and steel structure. I'd worked here for 5 years. Had thought I'd spend my whole career here. Had imagined myself eventually taking over when my father retired. That future was gone now. Vanessa had taken it. But I'd built something better. Something that was actually mine. I walked into the lobby with my head high. The receptionist didn't recognize me. Too much time had passed. Too much had changed. I'm here from Hammond and Associates, I said. For the 10 o'clock meeting. She checked her computer. Nodded. Called upstairs. Within minutes, someone came down to escort me to the conference room. We rode the elevator in silence. My heart was pounding but my hands were steady. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. Everything looked exactly the same. Same carpet. Same artwork on the walls. Same smell of coffee and paper and ambition. The conference room was already full when I walked in. My father sat at the head of the table. Older than I remembered. More gray in his hair. My mother was there too. Not part of the company but present anyway. Probably for moral support. And Vanessa. sitting 3 seats down from my father, looking polished and professional in a designer suit. Her hair perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked up when I walked in. Eyes met. For just a second her mask slipped. Saw shock, then fear. Then that familiar cold calculation as she quickly recovered. "Thank you all for meeting with us," I said, my voice steady and professional. "I'm the lead consultant from Hammond and Associates. I'll be presenting our analysis and recommendations today." My father's face had gone pale. He stared at me like I was a ghost. My mother's hand flew to her throat. But nobody spoke. Nobody interrupted. I set up my laptop, connected it to the projector, pulled out my materials, and began my presentation. Professional, detailed, devastating. I laid out every problem in their operations, every inefficiency, every missed deadline, every client complaint. The numbers were brutal, undeniable, and I showed exactly how each problem traced back to decisions made in the last 18 months. Since Vanessa had taken over, I never mentioned her name. Didn't have to. Everyone in that room could see it. Could see that she'd been failing, that she was in over her head, that she'd taken a position she wasn't qualified for. My father's face grew redder as I talked. Vanessa sat frozen, her hands clenched on the table. My mother looked between us, confused and horrified. When I finished, the room was silent. Then my father spoke. "You have a lot of nerve coming back here." His voice shook with anger. I met his eyes calmly. "I was hired to do a job. I'm doing it. After what you did. After the lies you told." "I never lied," I said quietly. "Not once. You just believed someone else instead of me." Vanessa finally spoke. Her voice was tight, controlled. "This is inappropriate. She has a personal grudge. Her recommendations can't be trusted." Smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. "Everything in my presentation is backed by data, by client feedback, by documented evidence. If you don't believe me, hire another consulting firm. They'll tell you exactly the same thing." Packed up my materials, slid my business card across the table to my father. "Hammond and Associates will send you our full proposal by end of week. You can accept it or reject it. That's your choice. But the problems I identified aren't going away. And they're getting worse every month you wait." I walked to the door, looked back at Vanessa. "Oh, and for the record, I did graduate from State University, summa cum laude. I do have the degree you said I faked. And I was never lying about anything. You were." Then I walked out, head high, back straight, heart pounding with satisfaction. Done it. I'd faced them, proved myself, and reclaimed my truth. But this was just the beginning. The real battle was about to start. Have you ever had to prove yourself to people who doubted you? Sometimes the best response to lies isn't defending yourself. It's succeeding so completely that the truth becomes obvious. What would you do in my position? Would you take the job helping your family's failing company? Or walk away completely? Share your thoughts below.